What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm here to review Growing Up Hip Hop Atlanta. This is season 4, episode 1. Let's go ahead and break this show down. I have watched this series from the beginning, so I'm very familiar with the characters and their personality traits. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. So I'm actually going to break this episode down by character just because to me there wasn't that much interaction that happened between the cast. So let's go ahead and start with the top of the show and then I'll go by character. So we start the episode off with a montage of what has been happening in our world. We have the cast, they're talking about how COVID happened and how it shut, the world down, as well as they talked about Black Lives Matter. I didn't even realize that Remarkable would be a character that would come back, but we did see a scene with her showing her kids, or just having a conversation with her kids about Black Lives Matter and how Black people are treated in America. We even have Bow Wow, who's talking about the protesting and just everything that's happening. And unfortunately, that is the world that we're living in. It is getting crazier and crazier by the day. So the first character that I want to talk about, well, I don't want to call him a character, but cast member that I want to talk about is Shania, just because she had a very short scene and I actually like her. She has a quick scene where she's talking to Bow Wow, and she is in her senior year of college. And I will say that is one thing that I definitely respect about Shania, is that she is in college and she's finishing. She's not one of those celebrity kids who's like, well, my dad's in the industry, so I'm going to be in the industry as well. Because if I'm not mistaken, she's studying, I believe it's something that has to do with science or something like that. It's not like a typical, I'm just going to, study whatever that's easy. Like, it's a really hard technical degree that she's going after, and I'm very proud of her for that. She was just checking in on Bow Wow to see how he was and, letting him know that she saw him when he was posting online how he was out of town while we're all going through COVID. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but hopefully within this season we will see more of her. All right, so the next person that I want to talk about is Ayana. She actually made a phone call to Bow Wow as well, and she let him know that she went down to Miami to celebrate one of her friend's birthday, and she got sick. And, she is like coughing, and it sounds really bad. And come to find out, she did have COVID. And the bad thing about this is that when she got back home, she was all up under her girlfriend, like usually that's what people do. They come home, they want to be booed up. And I'm just like, hopefully her girlfriend did not get COVID as well, because that would be terrible. And another thing, Ayana actually has asthma. And if you know anything about asthma, it has all to do with your lungs and your breathing. And having COVID while having asthma, that can really be really bad, and it can lead to all types of things. So I am glad that in, real life, because, this was filmed a while ago, we know that Ayana is okay. We do see her make a call to Deb and Waka Flocka, because I believe that's like her aunt or something like that. Nothing really happened in that scene, and we do see her make a call to her dad. Now, we saw her dad, he was like in the studio, and he was just having a conversation with, some guys that he was working with about the world that we're in, how 2020, our lives all got, rocked, because honestly, when I think about 2020, I think of how we all thought that 2020 was going to be that year. Like, we all thought that 2020 was just going to be everybody's time to shine. And baby, that is not what we got. he's starting off with like Kobe Bryant dying. Like, that honestly still breaks my heart. That's a very tough death that I'm still not over, and I'm not very I just can't bring myself to fully believe it, honestly, because like Kobe Bryant made so much to me, being a person from LA, and I mean, we absolutely love Kobe, and I still send my prayers and wishes to his wife Vanessa and his other children. So rest in peace to Kobe and Gigi. But yeah, they were talking about how the year started off with Kobe Bryant dying, and then we got COVID, and then we got the death of George Floyd, and then we got the death of Breonna Taylor, and the many other Black people who have been killed by the hands of police. And, you know, this year is just not what any of us thought it would be. And again, rest in peace to those people as well, because there have been so many Black people who have died at the hands of white people who just do not like us because of the color of our skin. It's a horrific thing, honestly, to live in this country and know that there are people who hate you for reasons that you cannot change. Like, you cannot change the color of your skin. So he ends up her dad ends up getting a call from Ayanna. And, you know, she's like, I don't feel well or whatever. And he's like, oh, you know, okay, I can come over, you know, typical thing that a dad would say. And she's like, no, you can't come over. You and mom can't come over. And he's like, why? And she has to let her dad know that she got COVID. And I mean, he knows that she has asthma. So you can really tell that, like, once he found that out, all he wanted to do was, you know, be by his daughter's side and see if he can help her in any way. But because COVID is such a contagious thing that you can catch, a contagious virus, that he can't even be in contact with her. The only thing he can do is call her or FaceTime her. Like, that is a hard pill to swallow, knowing that you can't be there, like right there with your child when they're going through something like this. One other thing that I do want to mention, though, about this whole Ayanna and COVID situation is that she knew better. I'm sorry. I get that your friend, she wanted to celebrate her birthday, and I get it. I think her friend turned 30. But at the same time, it's like we are going through a global pandemic where there are people who are losing their lives every day, every hour, every minute. There is someone in this world who has lost their life to COVID at this point. And you deciding to go to Miami just so that you can have fun, like, girl, no. Absolutely not. You could have pushed your celebration later. Ayanna, you should have never left. You should have been more precautious than anything, considering you have asthma. I mean, I know for myself, like, I just turned a certain age and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready to celebrate. And I could not. Like, I just could not bring myself to jeopardize myself or my friends or anyone else that I care about and love, because honestly, you never know. You never know who's been in contact with who. This is not something that you can see. So if anyone's thinking about celebrating a birthday with a large crowd, please don't. Please don't. All right, so we next see, who do I want to do? Oh, the Brat. Oh my gosh. So the Brat is, I guess she's now a series regular, because I mean, we got a home shot of her and her beautiful girlfriend. What is her name? Judy. They're at home and the Brat is cooking. And I mean, honestly, seeing this side of the Brat, I was just like, okay, I get it. Like, she's so, she's just so soft and warm and, very sincere when it comes to her and Judy's relationship. They were just having breakfast and talking, and I believe they had like a couple other people there, and some other guys came over, and they were just talking about the importance of voting, and how in Atlanta, there's been a really big push to get out there and vote, because we have to make sure that we change the people who are in office, who are not thinking of our best interests. And as we all know, Georgia has done it again. Georgia has turned over, and now we have some more Democrats in office. So I'm so ready to see some changes in this country. I'm actually very proud of Georgia, because that push of Stacey Abrams, oh my gosh, that woman deserves all the awards. What is it? Nobel Peace Prize or whatever, Pulitzer Prize, whatever the award is. That's what we need to go ahead and give to Stacey Abrams. We also happen to see Debrat talk about how Judy should move basically her entire business to Atlanta, because of course she wants her girlfriend to be, with her all the time. But for Judy, she's like, well, I'm New Orleans and my business is going to stay in New Orleans. And also it's like, I'm not sure how New Orleans is, because I've never been there and I'm not from there, but I'm pretty sure it is great to have a Black-owned business thrive, as well as, Judy's business has been thriving in that city. You know what I mean? But I do want to see more of Debrat and Judy. I like them. I think that it's great that Debrat is living in her truth. Well, let me not even say that. She has always lived in her truth. She just always kept her life very private, which I can absolutely respect. For me, I don't need to know who a celebrity is dating. That's not really important to me. But the fact that she did share it with the world, I think it's beautiful. I love that she's happy. And I just hope to see more of her and Judy's relationship. All right, you guys. So we see Deb Atney, and oh, Deb. She, first of all, we see her in Waka, at her house. Her house is like a petting zoo, because she has all these random animals in her house. Like, girl, what are you doing? Like, okay, the brat had she had about 4 or 5 dogs, and I'm like, all right, cool. But Deb had like iguanas and Komodo dragons. Like, ma'am, I just don't understand. But anyways, she ended up inviting Debrat to some type of event, and Debrat is not playing when it comes to COVID. So she's like, no, I'm not coming. So I think she ended up asking Debrat ended up asking Deb, so do you really support Trump? And she's like, yes, I do, because what you see is what you get with him. I don't support him just for for policies and what he does, but he's a businessman, and this country is built on business. And I'm like, wow, Deb, wow. So you don't care about the policies that he's putting in place. You don't care about how he treats women. You don't care about how he treats Black people, Latinos, any other race besides white people. And you're supporting that. And then she had the audacity to say, because he's just like us. Girl, who is us? Us in what way? Who? Who, Deb? Who? Because I'm so confused. And Waka is just sitting there listening to his mom talk, and his mouth is open. I think he really realized that, I don't know how Tammy would feel about Deb, being a Trump supporter, and her whole thing is if people don't like her anymore because she's a Trump supporter, then they never liked her. And I'm like, no. People just see that now you believe in someone who does not have the American people's best interest at heart and who is so hateful and deceitful. Girl, I'm sorry, but Deb, you used to be cool, but not anymore. So the last person that I want to talk about is Bow Wow. We see him and his group of friends. They're hanging out, and he lets us know that they went on a trip to Miami. And keep in mind, this is in the middle of COVID. This is probably when the pandemic was really, really crazy. And the cases are super high. And as we know that the cases are back on the rise. So they go on this trip to Miami and it is just them partying. Like they invited a bunch of girls and who knows where they picked those girls up from. They're drinking, smoking. One of his friends, Pimpin', he ended up getting them fined because he was smoking in the room at the hotel. Oh, and not to mention, Bow Wow also rented a jet so that they can travel from Atlanta to Miami. And I'm like, dude, y'all could have took a Sprinter van and it could have been a road trip considering you were only going from Atlanta to Miami. Like, the amount of money that he spent once he was like, oh yeah, I think it was about $25,000. You spent $25,000 in the middle of a pandemic and we don't know how, the world is going to work anymore. Like, he talks about how he was doing all these shows and how, the tour got canceled. And I'm like, dude, that tour probably will not be back until like 2022, 23. To be honest, like, we don't know how this pandemic is going to pan out for us, and you're out here just blowing money. Like, also, it's just funny that his friend, Pimpin' was like, oh yeah, we just spent so much money, and I'm just like, did you guys all pitch in on this trip? Because he's always with Pimpin', he's always with BT, and as we all know, Bow Wow is the star, and Bow Wow has more money. So is Bow Wow the sole provider for all these trips and the girls and all this stuff? Like, I really need for rappers to realize that you do not need to carry your friends. Your friends need to have real jobs, and life is not always about just partying and drinking and having a good time. But again, maybe that's just the life of a musician. So we next see a little scene of Bow Wow, who is with who? BT and Pimpin' yet again, and they're at a car dealership. And again, we are in the middle of a pandemic. Why are you trying to buy a new car? Just so that you can stunt that you have a Bentley? Yeah, he is trying to buy a Bentley, and his manager, Andy, calls him, is like, you need to leave. You need to get out of there, of the car dealership, because you don't need to be spending all this money. Bow Wow's not listening. Bow Wow feels like it's my money and I can spend it however I want. And I feel like that's going to come back and bite him in the ass, because at the end of the day, you're not like that guy. Like, you're not a top rapper. You're not a top actor. You're just getting these growing up hip hop checks. Like, you're just little Bow Wow. I think you might want to, have a saving plan at this point. So we lastly see Bow Wow meeting with his manager, Andy, and it looks like they're meeting in a strip club, but like the bar is open. Of course, Bow Wow would have him meet there. Andy is basically trying to go over Bow Wow's finances, and he's like, dude, you're spending too much money. You just spent like $100,000 on whatever it was that he spent. He said that he spent that within like a month and a half. Then he bought the car, And the car's a $300,000 car. It was a Bentley. And Andy is like, you have a permanent driver. Why are you buying a Bentley? And also, of course, he spent the $25,000 on the trip to Miami because he rented a private jet. Like, Bow Wow is just spending all of his money, and because he wants to be seen as the guy who has it all, he's just dropping all types of cash when he doesn't have to. He doesn't need to be doing this. And his friends are enabling him because they benefit from it. Like, let's call a thing here. I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for Bow Wow, BT and Pimpin wouldn't have probably been like, yeah, let's go ahead and get a jet and let's go to Miami. They probably would have been flying coach. You know what I mean? Like, he's over here trying to be that guy, and it's like the only people who are benefiting from this is your so-called friends. And oh yeah, and the girls who you're probably spending money on. So now the topic of his album comes up, and Andy is like, what you sent me is not an album. You skipped over topics because he has a theme where he's talking about all of the relationships that he's been in the past, and it's like, dude, do we even want to hear that? Like, I understand that Bow Wow was a child rapper and then he grew up, but I don't think I want to hear him rap about his relationships with women. Like, that's kind of whack. But anyways, according to Andy, it's not an album. It sounded like it was all over the place, and Bow Wow, he's trying to justify his reasoning as to why it sounds the way it does. According to him, people love the album. The women that he's played it for said that they would have a baby to whatever songs that he has. And Andy, he's actually a really good manager. He's like, yeah, because you're paying them. You provide a lifestyle for the guys that are your friends. You provide experiences for them. You treat these girls who are random as hell. You treat these girls like as if, they're somebody important. They're over here drinking the best champagne because you ordered the best champagne. They are just having a ball, having a great old time. So of course they're going to be like, of course, Bow Wow, we love your album because you're providing something for them. So Andy is like, okay, well, how about you go ahead and play the album for Jermaine? And Bow Wow's like, no, because he has this thing in his mind where he feels like his album should sound like him and that he wants it to be 100% Bow Wow. And I get what you're saying, but at the same time, Jermaine knows music. Jermaine knows, what things should sound like. Like, I would never discredit Jermaine Dupri and what he has done for the music industry. So the fact that Bow Wow has access to him and he doesn't want to use that access blows my mind. Because at the end of the day, the worst thing that he can say is that it's not good. And as we all know, Jermaine wants Bow Wow to win, so he's going to give him pointers on how he can do better. Like, honestly, I just feel like the more that I watch Bow Wow on this show, it's just like we just keep seeing him spiral into circles. He's been saying he's gonna put out another album for at least 10 years now, because that's how long it's been since the last one. Like, Bow Wow, just get your life together. That pretty much wraps up this review, though. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, guys, bye.